for the update of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade and expansion project. The purpose of our meeting tonight is to share information on the construction activities on this project and to describe what the community should be expecting in the upcoming year. We're here to answer any questions you may have. We want to stay connected with the community. How to reach us, please remember that you can contact us at info@cleanwaterprogramsanmateo.org. You can also contact us via the hotline at 650-727-6870. You can also sign up for email updates at www.cleanwaterprogramsanmateo.org. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. Tonight's meeting is part of a continuous outreach and engagement process with the community. Since 2016, the city has reached out to the community via community meetings, public hearings, and city council meetings. Our last meeting was held in June of 2020, and tonight is a continuation and an update of the status of the project. Joining me tonight, Mr. Doug Linz, Senior Project Manager for Sun Construction. Sun Construction is the contractor for this project. We'll have available also during Q&A time, Ms. Azalea Mitch, our Public Works Director, Mr. Mike Duvendak, our Programs Manager Advisor, and tonight our facilitator is Ms. Kelly Binns from our Communications and Public Relations Department. I will briefly go over the Clean Water Program, and then we'll concentrate mainly on the wastewater treatment plant upgrade and expansion project, giving you an update of what construction has been completed to date and what you can expect in the upcoming year. After the presentation, we'll have some time for questions and answers. So let's get started. The existing wastewater treatment system consists of two components. The existing collection system, which is a series of pipes, manholes, and lift stations, which convey the wastewater from your homes and businesses to the wastewater treatment plant. The second major component is the existing wastewater treatment plant itself, which removes solids and treats the solids from the wastewater, and then treats the wastewater. It disinfects it so that it meets the regulations of the regulatory agencies for disposal into the bay. The program goals consist of replacing aging infrastructure and facilities, building wet weather capacity to prevent overflows, meeting the current and future regulatory requirements, which all align with the City of San Mateo and Foster City's long-term sustainability goals, for basically protecting the bay and the community for the future. Let's talk about the project specifics. The wastewater treatment site is located at the intersection of J. Hart Clinton Drive, or also known as East 3rd Avenue, and Detroit Drive. The site is located just north of the existing wastewater treatment plant. To the north is 3rd Avenue and San Francisco Bay. To the east is John Lee Dog Park and Seal Slough. To the south, Leslie Creek and Joinville Park. And to the west is All American Self-Storage and the Shoreview Avenue area. When the wastewater treatment plant expansion project is completed, we'll have a brand new treatment process facility to treat the liquid portion of the wastewater. The existing wastewater treatment plant, portions of that will still remain, which will be handling the solids portions of the wastewater, and we'll have a brand new administration building. Part of the administration building will have an interface with the public. We'll have indoor education and exhibit space, and we'll also have outdoor signage and outdoor education area as well. And the existing bike pathway from Dale Avenue will continue to across the front of the new new admin building. Our construction is scheduled to last approximately 5 years, and it occurs in 3 phases, which they overlap. The first phase, the site preparation phase, began in July 2019 and was completed last year in December. The second phase, the foundation, began in June 2020 with pile driving and is expected to be completed in January 2022. And our third phase, the new facility construction, began in September 2020 and is scheduled to be completed in August of 2024. What have we completed to date? Phase 1 site preparation is completed, and phase 2, a portion of it, the stage 1 pile driving, has been completed. Prior to construction, the new site of the treatment plant for the new facilities consisted of a parking lot, some open space, and a few small buildings. During phase 1 site preparation, which lasted from July 2019 to December 2020, the contractor cleared the site, did excavation and shoring and dewatering for the new facility, set up his construction trailers, and demolished a few facilities at the old treatment plant. During phase 2, which began in July 2020 and lasted 6 months to December of last year, the contractor installed nearly 1,600 piles in the excavated area and a few at the ground level. In order to mitigate the noise coming from the pile driving, we installed a temporary 16-foot high sound wall. The piles are needed to support the structure, and the piles range in depth to 80 to 105 feet long. And there will be approximately 2,000 piles when all is said and done, and the new facility will rest upon that. Why are foundation piles needed? The piles are driven to the old bay mud, which is stiff and strong soil, past the weak bay mud soil that's above it, which provides a stable foundation. And then on top of the piles, pile caps are placed, and the new structure is then built on top of that. The piles prevent the structure from uplift due to high groundwater, and it also prevents settlement due to shrinkage. The piles also keep the structure in place during seismic events. I would like to call your attention to our website, www.cleanwaterprogramsanmateo.org/WWTP/. If you go to this site, you can see we have 2 cameras that show these construction. These cameras are on 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they show the progress of the construction live. So you can see what's going on at the site. We have been very successful in our first phases of the job. The site preparation was completed in time, and we have nearly 1,600 piles installed in the first stage. But at this time, I want to thank you all for this project could not have been successful without the great support and the patience that we have received from this community. And we ask for your continued support and patience in the upcoming years. It is now my pleasure to introduce Doug Linz of Sun Construction, who will present a small video. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, so I'd like to start off before we get going on this video. What you're going to see is about 18 months worth of construction activity. What you see on the site today is a pick of the site around mid-November of 2019. This is when most of the project got moving after all the funding was worked out for the project. And so what we'll be doing is taking it from this still shot here and moving forward 18 months. We will pause periodically at certain points in the video just so I can kind of give you a preview or narrate what you just saw or give you a preview of what you're about to see. So we'll have about 5 or 6 different pauses through this video, and I'll narrate through that somewhat then when we get to that point. So Tom, I think you can just let her go and to the next hold point, please. So what you're seeing in front of you is some big major equipment that we brought in, large drilling rigs to mix soil, native soil along with slurry to form a 60-foot deep, 3-foot thick impervious wall. And this wall was a combination for earth retaining as well as a groundwater cutoff wall. Inside that interior loop of wall, is a dewatering system is being incorporated as well to drain the water and moisture from the interior of the site. As Tom alluded to in the previous video, that we're dealing with bay mud and groundwater levels that are 6 feet below the previous surface level before we started. So we hit water pretty quick, and we're dealing with some pretty sloppy mud. So we had to dewater it. And so also what was going to preview what we're going to see is we're going to be finishing up the dewatering wells and treatment system, as well as finishing up this wall. And the upper layer of excavation, pretty much the upper layer is all the fill material that's been brought in over the years. So everything pretty much but bay mud was excavated out. So we'll roll to the next hold point, Tom. Okay, so what you're seeing is just before this image here, you see down here in the corner here where the dark stuff is, we're starting to get into the deeper elevations, and you can see the difference between the bay mud, which is awful black and thick and heavy and et cetera. So we've finished with the upper elevation. Now we're starting to go down. We went down 22 feet from the existing grade, and what's going to see in the upcoming video or segment will be, you'll see some white substance start appearing on top of the surface, and that's what we did there. Was we excavated down, and then we started mixing lime with native soil to form a sub-base, 6 foot thick sub-base, to solidify the sub-base for the equipment, as well as for the structural capacity of the facility. So that's what you're about to see here. So we can move on to the next segment. So yeah, so here we're at with if you see the pile driving rig in the back, we mobilized the pile driving rig, and what you see is some of these longer piles. You're sitting laying horizontal on the surface, and we're just prepping the area to get ready to start driving the first piles of stage 1 piles. Stage 1 consisted of 1,600 piles, and so what you're seeing is us just now initiating that phase. This is a time frame of July of 2020 is when this started. This pick is around that time frame. So July of 2020. So we can go to the next video segment. So what you just saw there was basically 6 months worth of pile driving work from July to late December, mid-December of 2020. What occurred there was installation of about 1,600 concrete piles ranging from 80 to 105 feet deep. And what you're also starting to see here is the pile driving starting to phase out the stage 1. And what we're seeing is our phase 3 scope. You start seeing trucks and equipment starting to arrive to build the foundation on top of the piles we just drove down at the lower elevation area, basement level, as they call it. So we can go ahead and move on to the next segment. Okay, so here's where we're at as of last week on this video. Basically, GMP3 was what we call phase 3 was released, and this is basically continuing to attach into these piles that we've driven and start building the foundation for the wastewater treatment plant structure. What you see down there is a lot of rebar, a lot of concrete, and a lot of walls are starting to come up out of the basement level. And so we about 4,000 cubic yards of concrete poured, a lot of rebar, a lot of steel going on. And what you see, you probably see these if you live close to the plant. There's 2 tower cranes now installed on the site, and those are pretty visible that you can't miss. On the foreground, the temporary sound wall is now in this week, so it doesn't show up on this video. but the temporary sun wall is in along the All-American storage right now to prepare for the stage 2 pile driving, which is, as Tom mentioned, it's about 360 some odd piles left for the project, and they'll be driven starting first week in July, and we'll start that stage 2 pile driving again. So with that, Tom, I'll turn it back over to you, and you can kind of finish up this project review here.
Thank you, Doug. So what can we expect in the upcoming year? We'll begin our stage 2 pile driving in July. It should last about 2.5 months. We'll be continuing our construction of our new facilities, consisting of the new treatment process facilities, as well as the administration building beginning. Phase 2, the foundation stage 2 pile driving, will consist of approximately 400 piles. They'll be at ground level as opposed to the excavation area, as in the past under phase 1. And as Doug has mentioned, we will be installing a temporary sound wall to help reduce the noise level. The pile driving method that was chosen was selected specifically for the site because it's optimum for the soil conditions and the site conditions that we have. The precast piles are actually manufactured off-site and brought in, and we are also using a hydraulic hammer because this is one of the methods that has the lower noise levels and it produces no smoke emission. We're also shrouding the top of the hammer for noise as well. However, noise can be expected during pile driving. Under stage 1 driving activities, our noise levels were between 90 decibels to 100 decibels. Under stage 2, again starting in July 2021, lasting for approximately 2.5 months, the noise levels are expected to be 90 decibels to 110. Now the decibel level decreases the further you're away from the activity. And for instance, 110 decibels is what you would hear normally coming at a rock concert. 100 decibels is what you hear with a jackhammer, and 90 is what you hear when a heavy truck goes by. As you can see in this exhibit, the piles that are shown in red, which are roughly about 10% of the piles that will be driven, are expected to occur with the 110 decibel level or so. The orange are between 85 to 100, and the yellow 78 to 95, and the green less than 90. However, the distance you are away from the pile dramatically affects the sounds you will hear. And for instance, the shore view area is 310 feet away from the closest pile, and Mariner Island is more than almost 1,500 feet away from the nearest pile. And once you get about 200 feet from the piles, the noise level drops to below 90 decibels. In addition to the pile driving, we'll be constructing our new facility, and it will continue. We'll be continuing with the installation of formwork, rebar, concrete work, and installation of process piping. But with the increase in construction activities, there comes more personnel to the construction site. There'll be increase in traffic to and from the site. We'll require additional parking for the construction personnel. So we'll be using the Anchor Road temporary staging area, as well as a portion of the Anchor Road parking lot. And we'll increase in construction materials coming to the site, such as pipes, valves, mechanical and electrical equipment, concrete and rebar. However, our commitment to the community hasn't changed. Our construction site will still operate from Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The pile driving activities are restricted to weekdays only from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The typical construction day is expected to be only from 8 to 10 hours, and construction work is not planned for the weekends. There may be exceptions, and if there are, they will require city approval, and public notification will be provided before construction on the weekend occurs. We will continue to monitor our construction activities. We have 4 locations where we monitor vibration. During phase 1 of the pile driving, it showed that the vibration was actually at a low risk. We also monitor the groundwater to make sure it is maintaining a proper level. We have 2 groundwater observation wells, and we will also be monitoring the noise levels from the construction site at 2 locations at all times. As I mentioned, we have staging areas. These staging areas around the site are being utilized. Area 1 off of Dale Avenue is being utilized by our construction subcontractors for their trailers, as well as our construction management team trailers. Area 2, which is the Anchorage Road passive open space, will be converted or has been converted to a parking lot for the expected additional personnel coming from the construction site, and a portion of the existing Anchor Road parking lot will be utilized by the contractor as well for parking. As shown here, this is the Area 2 parking area that's been constructed for the personnel that will be doing construction. And then we have the overflow spaces over here on Anchorage Road, a parking lot, but we will always maintain at least 8 spaces for the public, including 1 handicap. We're also committed to utilizing our haul routes. The only haul route we have is from utilizing US 101 through 3rd Avenue, J. Hart Clinton Drive to Detroit, and exiting back onto 3rd Avenue to US 101. We also minimize construction traffic during peak commute hours so that we do not affect commute traffic. During the pile driving exercise, we estimate between 10 to 12 truck delivery of piles per day. There'll be no parking on 3rd Avenue, no trucks parking on 3rd Avenue. And the delivery time for piles unloading will be between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. But no deliveries will occur between 4 p.m. and 5:30 p.m., again, to minimize the impacts to the peak commute hour. Again, I'd like to remind you how to contact us through the info@cleanwaterprogramsanmateo.org or through our hotline, 650-727-6870. You can always get sign up for specific email updates at www.cleanwaterprogramsanmateo.org. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. At this time, I'd like to introduce our facilitator, Kelly Bintz, who will lead us through a Q&A. Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Tom. That was great and informative. As you can expect, we're going to open up the floor to raised hands. I see that we already have a question in the Q&A, so let me go ahead and open up the floor to any raised hands. Anyone that wants to speak or ask a question, please go ahead and raise your hands. And while we're waiting for people to decide if they want to ask us any questions, we're going to answer the first question that came into the Q&A. Thomas, little boy Milton asks if there will be access to the trail through the wastewater treatment plant from the Shoreview neighborhood at the intersection of Shoreview and Dale Avenue.
Unfortunately, that trail will be closed during construction for safety purposes. There have been signage. I think if you're familiar, if you live in that area, there's already signage of how to go around and about to that area to get to the park. But the area through the construction site is too dangerous for public to access. So that will remain closed until the completion of the project. Let me see if I can find a slide for that shows you that access.
Sure. You see Richard has his hand up, and we're going to go, Richard, to your question next as soon as Thomas finds that slide. And we might have to go backwards a bit.
Yeah, no problem.
We have a small group here in our audience today, so if there's any question you want to ask, feel free to raise your hand. We have enough people that we could answer all your questions if every single one of you had a question. So we see one hand up already, and Richard, we'll get to your question in just a second.
And hopefully you can see on the screen now the alternative routes.
We can see that screen. It's hopefully a little bit, Milton, if you have any other follow-up questions, just raise your hand and we'll attend to those. Okay, Richard, we're going to go to you now. Go ahead and open your mic whenever you're ready. You can ask your question.
Yes, thank you very much. This may sound strange, but I'm excited about this project.
Good, we are too. It's an exciting project.
And actually, this is a very, very informative tonight. The visuals were great. I live about 3/4 of a mile away. I often walk down to the dog park there. And we are getting, well, I can't speak for others. My buildings, I live in Harbortown, my buildings are on pilings, so we haven't had any vibration. Occasionally, if I'm outside, I'll hear a distant pile driving. Noise doesn't really bother me, so I might not be a good source. But I think it's been handled well. I'm sure that Mariners One, which is right across the lagoon there, probably is getting some noise they don't like. But my questions regarding the potable water that'll be coming from there, and that's really what drives my excitement. And living in Harbortown, we're in the Estero Water District. We've already been required to have split meters for our vegetation as well as for our home water. And we've got 14 acres of landscape. It takes a lot of water. I'm wondering if there are any plans in the future to work with Estero to run a line up Mariners Island through San Mateo and on into Foster City, so that the large associations that have a lot of infrastructure for plants and trees will be able to use that potable water for their landscaping. I think that would be a wonderful use of it if it's possible and economically possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
In terms of Title 22 water, the treatment plant will be producing Title 22 water. Unfortunately, there will still be a high salt content in that water that can only be removed with reverse osmosis process, which would then make it usable for irrigation. And so at this time, we do not have funding for that reverse osmosis process. But long-term plans, if we can find some funding, maybe to look toward that avenue, we would love to be able to provide Title 22 water for irrigation purposes in the future. But currently, right now, we don't have the money, and there's no funding at this time.
A suggestion
Mm-hmm.
that we include it in the initiative for stormwater. I think it would be a very popular issue to be able, in our community full of environmentalists, to be able to convert that water to usable.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you, Richard. And I don't see any other hands up. Without, oh, I see a hand up. There he goes. Okay. Drew, go ahead and open your mic whenever you're ready and ask your question.
Hello there. I had kind of a question, so I may wander a little bit here to try to remember.
I'll keep you on track, Drew.
So I wanted to say I really appreciate the email notice type information about the come variety of the timing depending on what's going on, because there's also on the storage tank. So those are kind of a separate, but from the same. I know you're all doing it kind of related, but I just appreciated the email for this. And yes, there was some question following Richard's thing that I was wondering about some of the stuff. Oh, construction. That's right. With the added, I've heard a variety of places that the cost of construction of materials has gone up significantly. And I'm wondering, has that impacted this project, or maybe not, because there was contracts signed and stuff. So, material pricing is kind of based a year ago, and not like we're not riding the full increase pricing wave. So yeah, my immediate question at this point, might be back in a moment, but is about just like, how is the construction pricing impacting, if it is impacting this project?
Great, thanks.
Or any of the projects, in the city with the Greater Clean Water Program too.
Great, thanks.
Mike, would you like to take that one for us?
I can. Can you hear me? Okay.
We can,
All
Mike.
right.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Mike Duvendak. I'm the program manager advisor to the city. I work for Jacobs Engineering. I've been with the program for a number of years now. And to answer your question, Drew, we have been seeing some cost inflation on several of the projects, actually. Due to the pressures, that we're seeing in the economy. We've also seen some shortages of materials and such, which have impacted some of our schedules. But generally speaking, we haven't seen too much of that directly impact the program. We are monitoring it very closely. Many of our contracts, those that were established, prior to that period when the inflation pressures have started to occur. And that's, helped us avoid some of the cost impacts. But we will continue to monitor it because it could impact us going forward, as we are seeing, as you've noted, material escalation. So, and Doug, I don't know if you want to add to that, but you're a little closer to it, obviously, related to the treatment plant expansion project. So Doug may have some additional thoughts around that.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Doug Lenz here with Sun Construction. Yes, it's I think the timing on this, we did get in and we dodged a few bullets with regard to commodity price increases and shortages, but we're still, it requires micromanagement, required micromanagement to make sure that we can contain that risk and those impacts. Certainly getting hit heavy with things of like PVC and of steel pricing of those type of commodities. And the shortages, obviously the actual delivery times of those items is becoming more and more something that we need to get out in front of and plan for, because you can't rely on them always being there. So the schedule to maintain schedule on this project and to maintain budget, it is requiring a lot more effort on the whole team's part to contain that risk that's out there. And it certainly is a risk out there, though.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for that answer. And I do want to remind everyone that if they haven't already found it, the website page, cleanwaterprogramsanmateo.org/WWTP is a great place to go and watch the live construction happening. We've particularly set up those live cameras so you could keep an eye on construction as it was going. And I'm just curious, in a show of hands of those people in the audience, how many of them have tapped into our live cameras and watched the live construction at any point during this construction? Just raise your hand if you have. I see one. Great. There's one there that did. And then for anyone else who hasn't tapped into it yet, I really encourage you to go to that webpage. It's more interesting than watching paint dry, I guarantee it. And it's great to watch the live construction as it's happening right there in your city. So it looks like we have no other hands raised. Drew, did you have any follow-up? Yes, I see your hand again. So go ahead and ask any follow-up. And I don't see any of their hands raised. So, I do see a question from Adam in the Q&A. And yes, this recording of this meeting will be on the wastewater treatment plant site, likely sometime tomorrow. So we are recording it, as you know, and we will post it to the site. Drew, do you want to ask your follow-up question? And then after Drew's question, without any other hands up or questions, we'll probably conclude this meeting. Take it away, Drew.
Yeah, couple hopefully simple questions, like that new temporary parking lot on Anchor. It was an open field area. What's the plan long term after the project's done? Kind of curious just in general. And then I'd wondered, looking through last year's slides and then this year a little bit, when your presentation on the sound kind of fencing that you bought, like I wondered why it didn't curve, I guess, to the south or more to the treatment plant around. It kind of was like right along, I guess it's Detroit, but it didn't seem to kind of curve around. And I always had wondered about that from a sound, why it didn't kind of, I don't know, partially curve around and maybe like kind of hook the site on the south or west side, depending on your orientation. So
thanks, Drew. And then I have a question from Lewis after.
Hi, Azalea Mitch. If I can answer Drew your question regarding the lot on off Anchor Road. So that lot is managed by the Parks and Recreation Department. So after our construction is done, we'll restore it to its previous condition, and then it will be given to Parks. So in terms of long-term planning, I know that the community has had ideas on the use, but that is an effort that will have to be managed by Parks. But when we started using the land, there were no plans for any sort of long-term use.
Great, thank you, Azalea. That was our Public Works Director, Azalea Mitch. Thanks, Azalea. I'm going to go over to Lewis's question now. He asked that with the ongoing drought, are there any plans to use RW for dust control? I'm hoping someone knows what that means, or other dust control methods.
Yes, if I can answer that too. Hi, Lewis, Azalea. So, and I will be good to add to what Tom, based on Rich's question about recycled water use altogether. We do, because we're so close to the Bay and like any other agencies on the Bay, we do have a salinity issue. The difference between San Mateo and other jurisdictions is we are not a water purveyor. So while we treat the wastewater that we receive at the plant, we actually don't have the ability to distribute recycled water. So Rich, based on your question, however, Estero Foster City is a part owner, and we have been working with them on further studies that may be needed, and like Tom mentioned, reverse osmosis. However, because that would be additional treatment that would be needed, that would be part of a recycled water additional treatment and distribution system that would have to be handled by Foster City, since they are both a water purveyor and a wastewater collection entity. So so it's a little bit complicated in terms for us being able to deliver recycled water. So Louis, to your question, if we, facilities do have the ability to receive, for example, contractors that can fill their tanks with recycled water. We haven't incorporated that in our design due to the salinity issues. But however, it could be a future issue or a future service with additional treatment.
Great, thanks, Azalea. Drew, did you have any other follow-up questions? And you're welcome, Louis. Any other questions, any other hands raised, go ahead and do it now. After Drew's last question here, we'll probably close this meeting with no further questions or hands raised. Go ahead, Drew.
Kelly, this is Mike. Just wanted to, Lewis had asked, or Drew had asked another question about the sound wall extension curving around the site, and just it'd be good to answer that. I'll take a stab, but if others want to chime in, they can. The reason it was located generally where we had it was due to the nearest receptors, Drew, and because of the All-American storage was so close, and also the Shoreview neighborhood. And Tom had shown this slide earlier, which shows the distance to the Shoreview, which was 350 feet. And the reason we didn't curve around is because the distance to the Mariners Island is much further. And as Tom noted, the sound dissipates with distance. And that was the basic premise for why we located the sound wall where it was.
Thank you, Mike. Drew, did that answer your question, or did you have another question beyond that?
I just clarification, I think. I think you still can hear me.
Yes, we can. Yep.
Because this is a good slide for that. It's kind of where that white, let's see, the white dot on top of some of the red. Yeah, I guess that's where I always had wondered why the sound thing didn't just curve a little bit there. But I totally understand Anchor Road, or kind of the other side, is too far away. And I understand your explanation. That was kind of where I was trying to describe in my question, kind of where the cursor is, why it didn't kind of curve a little bit into that area. It always seems straight on different things I've seen. just kind of straight along Detroit and didn't kind of curve in a little bit there. So it may have out in the field. It was just an observation from different things I've seen. So, but
And in
thank you for that
addition-
answer.
In addition to the reason why it stopped short in that area, is there was a lot of construction activity that was planned in that area during that phase as well. So the longer we would have extended it, it would have limited the ability for the contractor to do as much work as he got done.
Got it. Thank you.
And for those people that are close to this project in proximity, you will be receiving a mailer in the next couple of days letting people know that the pile driving work will return again in July. And Tom, do you mind just going ahead to the slide where people can contact us? And anybody who needs to reach out to the project team can always reach out to us at any time. We're here for you, answer any questions that we have. And I do encourage you to go visit the website to watch the live construction. So I think Tom is just gonna get us to that page where people can reach us. There you go. So don't forget there is a hotline where you can reach us at any time. We'll take your emails at any time. If you live close to the project, you will be seeing a mailer, and you'll probably see some social media in the next couple of days letting people know that our pile driving begins again in July. But this time we have less piles than before. And I see Drew with one more question. Go ahead, Drew. Oh, we have a question down here in the Q&A from Little Boy Milton again. Just one second, Drew.
Yep, do him first.
He says, I might have missed it, but can anybody email me an answer? Thanks. Yes, you did miss our answer to your question, Little Boy. Tom did explain why you don't have access to that path, and we will follow up with you by email. Drew, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, this is probably more on behalf of my spouse because she's asked when, and it's not right at the treatment plant. It's more at 42nd or 41st in El Camino. There's a city-owned lot that has a big pile of dirt, and she's like, hey, why is that pile of dirt there? And I thought at some point it was related to the clean water program, and I just was wondering if that's still the case. And she just was wondering the plan, and doesn't mean the pile needs to be moved tomorrow or anything. It was just kind of what if that's related, and in a year or two it'll be moved or anything.
What was the location again, Drew?
It's like at El Camino and 41st Street or 42nd Street. It's the right at the undercrossing of the Caltrain tracks. It's a small city-owned corner lot. And I thought when like the pump station was getting redone, the construction crews were using it, and I thought there was a notice for some of the line upgrades that were going to happen, or some other projects in the area, maybe Clean Water was going to use it, but there's just a big pile of dirt on it and it got added. And I just was wondering if that's related to Clean Water. My spouse really was, I wasn't. So this is more on behalf of my spouse, I'm asking this.
Hi, Drew. I could answer that question. And just to introduce myself, my name is Derek Keegan, engineering manager overseeing the Clean Water program. And I primarily oversee the collection system projects now. But that lot on 42nd and El Camino, that is temporarily staging for the underground flow equalization system project. So that dirt is from the excavation from the event center, and that's only temporary through the duration of the UFES construction. Right now with the very limited space in San Mateo, finding appropriate staging for our contractors is difficult, and that lot is a city-owned lot that we don't have to pay for. So we've used that for previous projects, and we'll continue to do so through the duration of the underground flow equalization system project. So.
Okay, thank you. It's not a problem. She was just kind of wondering, so I'll relay that information back to her. So thank you very much.
And Kelly, I think you're on mute. I see your lips moving.
That's why no one's responding. Yes, thank you. Little boy Milton, if you can raise your hand and let us know if you're still on the line, we will answer your question again. Just raise your hand and let us know that if you're here, and we will have Thomas re-answer your question. If not, we will follow up by email. And I don't see you raising your hand, little boy Milton. You're not there anymore? Okay, we will follow up by email and we will answer that question by email. So with no other hands raised and no further questions, I believe we are going to conclude our meeting now. We will follow up with little boy Milton, who asked us a question that he's not online anymore. Okay, thank you everyone for attending our meeting. We appreciate the time you've taken. We are recording this and we will post it to the website probably in the next couple of days. We appreciate your time and your great questions. And we say good night. Thank you, everyone.